Mm. Oh, fuck. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Oh, I might see a little smoke coming. That's from the Mozzie that I lit up. So people were saying, get set up first, and I was like, you know what? I got a lot of shit on my mind, so I start to fucking hang out and I do what I need to do. Took my time. I got set up. So I'll just wait about 2 minutes. I think my 2 minute mark is where most people should be able to hit the push notifications. Uh, um, yeah, most people should be able to get it. I would hope. But then again, but then again, I didn't get the notification for Steve's rum and coke night until after it had been going on for a while. And I jumped in to hang out, and then my phone was like, "Hey, Steve is live," and I was like, "Oh shit, okay, what the hell's going on?" Oh, it was pretty good out here today. It's what you do when you're in the south. You sit outside. It feels good. You just sit out here. Wish I had some beignets. What's going on, Liquor Pig? I already had my coffee, but I don't have any beignets. My fat ass. Last thing I need is some beignets. That's what you do. You sit on your porch, have your coffee, some warm beignets. You sit and you chat with your grandma or an older aunt or somebody. See what they got going on today. That's what you do. Connect with the older generation because they're interested in what you're doing. But not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. My mother was here. She'd be sitting probably right over there smoking. Well, actually, she'd probably pull this over there so she could have she could put a cigarette out. But yeah, sounds like all of America. Yeah, yeah. Well, I really don't see too much in other places. Just especially like not in California. Not in when I was on the East Coast, I really didn't see it. But in the South, in Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, oh yeah, just sit out on the porch, chillax. Just by observation. But anyway. Uh, so I made a video last night. It was pretty late. I did do the podcast that I was talking about. The link to the podcast I put it on G Plus. I put it on that last video. We talked about all kinds of stuff. Political stuff. The shooting in Vegas. Um, the Colin Kaepernick thing. We talked about solar power and some like evaporation power, something like that. All kind of stuff. So there's a podcast with me and two other veterans uh, where we discuss all types of stuff. Oh, and the school system, American school system. So that's up there for people who want to listen. I think it's a little over an hour. Uh, so yeah. Uh, I keep hearing. Well, let me not even say that. I'm trying to think of a trying to be fair and balanced, not Fox News fair and balanced, but just actually fair and balanced. Uh, it always amazes me when I say something or I express a thought. I think at least in my mind that by the way that I explain stuff, and I will tend to repeat myself often, that it will kind of reinforce the idea in people's minds. And part of that is purposeful, and some of that is just I just end up repeating myself because I circle back because I like to make sure things connect. Um, but it always amazes me how. See, I just did it. It always amazes me how when I say something, the context gets like distorted And it's when I hear somebody else repeat a position that I have or something that I've said, it doesn't sound anything like that. And I'm not talking about repeating what I say verbatim. I don't expect anybody to repeat anything that I've said verbatim, but the gist of it. I should be able to go, yeah, that's close enough, yeah. And you actually hear me say, yeah, that's close enough. But when I hear what, and because I just listened to a little bit of G-Man's video, when I hear him say something that I've said, and I'm just like, what the fuck was he listening to? And I'm just like, what? Anyway, that's one of my, it's kind of one of the indicators that people aren't actually listening, but I don't know. We talked about that filter that happens oftentimes, but only people who sit on porches in my area are drug dealers. Listening, you fucked up listening to G-Man video. Well, it's only fair. He subscribed to me and I subscribe to him, and so I do listen to his videos and he listens to mine. So if I'm going to address him and use him as my whipping boy very often, I want to make sure that I have the best interpretation, the most recent of whatever he's saying. So, just to be fair, and that's they're always entertaining. My wife actually is pretty entertained listening to G-Man. That's why he's really the only person on that side of the fence that she'll actually talk to. My wife has tried to talk to True, but he doesn't let anybody in his room. So, and my wife is nothing like me. So. I don't think, I don't know why a 100-pound woman would be intimidating, but I don't know. Anyway, I don't know, have you seen my post in GDC? No, I have not. That's not my. That's the troll. That's not my wife. My wife is at the. She's at the beach with my son, our son rather. So, and she would never say that live. So, why the fuck does it keep getting out of focus? Alright. Yeah, so okay, if you're my wife, what is my family name that everybody calls me that I don't use online ever? If you're my wife. I'll wait. But yeah, so if you watch the video that I made late last night, about a little over half an hour, and I kind of go into detail about a number of things, and it was about how I phrased the word educated and how I've elaborated multiple times on what I mean when I say that. And this fucking thing, okay, Nums, no, sorry, you are not my wife. I have a family nickname that's just 2 letters. So no, that is the troll. Anyway. So it's G-Man calling. Okay. Alright, sorry about that. G-Man just called. Wants to see if I can set up a hangout with somebody, so that's something different. Anyway. Yep, I'm back. Yeah, sorry, like I said, I had to, G-Man just called me about something and may host a hangout later with him and somebody else, so I don't know. That's something different than what I'm talking about now. Who the fuck is it? That's Josiah, bro Jose from Grace. Look, man, when you get from up underneath Darwin's deity's nuts, you can come and hang out with the big boys. Until then, you stick next to your your mentor, and y'all practice whatever y'all practice in the dark corners of fucking YouTube and Google Plus. Cause y'all, oof. I'm afraid of DD. G-Man didn't call. Well, I'll tell you what, bro, Joe. You can ask G-Man. I've had him on speakerphone, and he will tell you in his hangouts that he calls me. So yes, I do have his phone number. He has mine. He's actually talked to my wife just yesterday. So, no one's scared of DD. I've not banned DD at any point in time. He doesn't come into my hangouts because my hangouts are, when I open hangouts, they're open hangouts. I don't play this game where people that he's afraid of can't come in. So if one of the Pal Talkers gets a link when he's in there, then they come in and tear him to fucking shreds. Aww. But I tell you what, you go tell your master, I'll open up a hangout out there, get out of class today, and he can come in, and I'll let whoever else wants to come in, or he can just come in and talk to me, because he knows that shit don't work with me. Did you ever ban anyone? I can't really think of somebody that I've just like banned from my hangouts. When have I ever said that? So yeah. So and of course he's calling people liars now. Yeah. So I'll tell you what, Josiah, you find where I have said that I've banned somebody from my hangouts, and then I'll address that. Okay. I've kicked people out of my hangouts, sure. That's rare, but banning people, I don't know. But I don't like he can call me a faggot and all that kind of stuff. Look, I wouldn't. When I was his age, I wouldn't walking around looking like fucking Cisco with multicolored hair. But I think he has some. I think he has some issues that he needs to work out in his own life. So, go hang around his daddy. I just started watching your channel, man. Sucks I didn't watch you sooner. We have gotten you a beer when you were in Maryland, man. I was hanging out with folks. That's what I was trying to do. The last year I was there, I was just trying to see folks, because I know there's a lot of folks that's over on that side of the country. G-Man's up there, Hannah. I think Wayne was north of me. I never got a chance to hang out. I think Wayne was busy with school. There's quite a few people. I got to meet Vince, and actually up in Maryland where I met Redline. So there's a lot of people up there. But next time that we do a New York trip, which actually it's not going to be a New York trip, it's going to be somewhere down south trip, or like California. So there will be another like G Plus get together, and but that's not anytime soon. I think the next one is, I think, maybe a year from now. Maybe I'll get back to you on that, because that's something that we definitely said that we're trying to do. It shows that the major difference between humans and chips is one fused chromosome, however mice and rats so many more. The fusions, you see, creates and accept that mice and rats are part of the same. Yeah, see, Nestle, Nestle, I need to get into that, man. I understand the point that you're making, but because I have the requisite understanding, I have the requisite knowledge needed to understand what you're saying, I completely got it. But I'm definitely getting into that. True called you out today for saying that he admitted to be uneducated. You didn't. You did already address that. He did admit to being uneducated, and I'm going to explain why. And that's why I gave that little spiel at the beginning about what other people, certain people, how they interpret what I've said, and they take it into something else. But it's funny, because my position on what it means to be educated has been on G-Man's channel for more than 2 years now. And I've explained on more than one occasion what I mean when I say that. And I have to keep correcting Arcane, G-Man, True, and a lot of other people that it doesn't mean formal education. You can speak with the shibboleth that people with a formal education would recognize as someone who is knowledgeable. I've said this on more than one occasion. But for some reason, it keeps going back to, only educated people, the ones that are degree holders. That's not true. And it's even more curious, because I've told people multiple times, I've told them the same fucking story about before I got back into school, I would sit out in the fucking desert at a guard stop, at a entry control point, with books, reading. That's where I actually learned a lot of this stuff from, and having these conversations while I was not in school. So it's not at all that I deny the fact that people can pick up information outside of school. I'm not sure where that notion's coming from, but I have a choice. I can just keep calling everybody a liar who misrepresent me, and then just keep pointing the finger, or I can just keep correcting them and move the fuck on. So I'm not going to join the troop of individuals who just keep calling people liars just out of nowhere, because I think that's a pretty egregious thing to say. It's a mark against somebody's character. If they have a misunderstanding, then they have a misunderstanding, whatever. But I think I've said it often enough to whereas most everybody else understands what I'm saying, but it's only a select few who probably actively choose to misrepresent what I've actually said. So, chat in a separate window, yeah. So here's me laying it out. If you don't want to watch the discussion that G-Man and I had around this entire topic, then I will lay it out for you. When I say someone needs to be educated on the topic, whatever the topic is, it could be video games, it could be science, like biology, it could be chemistry, it could be Pokemon, it doesn't matter. When I say the word educated, that is synonymous with being knowledgeable. Now, that begs the question, what do you mean by that? Because being knowledgeable on a topic really doesn't tell me anything. What type of measure or standard by which you're using to determine whether or not someone is knowledgeable? Is there some type of litmus test that one needs to take in order to get to this point, or what? No, it is a fairly nebulous concept, and I will completely acknowledge that. So in order for people to better understand what I'm talking about, my personal standard, which they feel free to disagree with, by all means, let me elaborate on what I feel can help determine whether someone is knowledgeable or not. Okay? So I spoke about gold standard last night, to which Shar Romeans, she actually said, you know what, a better gold standard would be certification, not just degree. And I actually agree with that, because a certification actually has you mastering skills and demonstrating them, and so being able to apply that knowledge and pass through an actual, like, a certification would be a demonstration of that knowledge. And so I think that is a stronger way to determine someone being not only educated but skilled. And I can't believe I forgot about that, because in order for me to become a combat medic, we have to pass a series of certifications. So I could say with full confidence, and hell, any firefighter unit or any medical unit, emergency medical unit, would have said the same thing, that this individual is knowledgeable about emergency medical techniques, because of the skills needed in order to pass the certifications. Before you even go into to take the actual training, you have to pass another certification. So there's different gateways that you have to kind of pass in order to even get to the actual training. You have to actually pass a basic basic lifesavers course, where you learn just like CPR and shit like that. People think the CPR is an easy thing. You see people do it on movies all the time. The people who do it in movies fuck up, and they can actually get somebody killed. So unlearning the shit that you see in TV and movies is very important, because an improper technique can cause you to really fuck up somebody's chest or kill them. Yeah, MP, the Mrs. Drag that you see in the chat, that's not my wife. That's a troll that we keep around for shits and giggles. My wife is at the beach. But if I were to say, well, there's two people, one person has a certification in basic lifesavers, the basic lifesavers course, one person doesn't, I would have to go with the person who does not have a certification. But okay, well then, if somebody doesn't have a certification because it's expired, then what? Well, there could be a demonstration. We could have both people perform a series of trials in order to see. Or we could just do a quiz. I think there are multiple ways that you could try and figure out if someone's knowledgeable. But I don't think it's a tremendous task, because normally nobody really does this. If you're just in a conversation with a bunch of guys and y'all talking about airplane dynamics and stuff like that, flight simulators. What we do in common parlance, I'll just say that, in common parlance, what a lot of us do in our day-to-day lives when we meet someone new, or there's a new topic that kind of crops up in our circle of friends, there is usually like the resident expert, and I'll use that in air quotes, resident expert, who just knows a shit ton about the topic, who everyone knows, like, well, this guy he's kind of top notch when it comes to this stuff. This is what he's really interested in, so everyone kind of defers to him. But if there's kind of a new guy, well, everyone recognizes the way that the knowledgeable person speaks about the topic, and it's a big ass beat. Okay, get the fuck away. Smash your fucking ass. All right. Sorry. Everyone recognizes the way that a knowledgeable person speaks on a topic. A lot of it has to do with the confidence, how well they can articulate it, and the jargon used, because there's jargon in every topic. So you could hone in on those three aspects to determine whether or not somebody knows a topic fairly well. If somebody understands anatomy really well, they will use the actual names, the metacarpals, metatarsals, that sort of thing, the jargon that is attached to the field. They can explain, pretty much in detail how stuff fits with one another, as far as just going for your going from the carpals to your phalanges. Then okay, well, people who have not heard of the actual medical term for all these bones, they're gonna go, oh shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. Could very well just be throwing out shit and nobody would know. If you've ever done this, for those of you who actually have just a group of friends, and no one knows about a topic, just start making up terms, and just say it really confidently. You will actually be able to fool people really easily. It's actually pretty funny if you do it. I won't say that I've done that before, but yeah, I have, just to fuck with people. But that's how we help determine whether or not someone is knowledgeable. So when we have these conversations online, you will often hear that, oh, so-and-so speaks confidently and speaks boldly, about this stuff. Well, you should. Like, if it's something that you're passionate about, G-Man speaks confidently and boldly about anti-evolution rhetoric. He's dead fucking wrong, but I'm not going to say, well, we'll laugh and go, look how confident he is about shit that's wrong. It's good. Like, you should speak confidently about things that you are passionate about. I'm not sure why that's a bad thing, because it is actually and it's honestly what helps people, I think, on their side hone in on guys like True, guys like Nephilim Free, because they have found a way to communicate what they want in a way that makes it sound more credible. That is one of the three aspects that we all use to help determine whether or not somebody knows what they're talking about. Because if somebody's stuttering, if they're just pausing, if they're trying to, if someone's doing all that, you're not going to think that they know about the topic. I mean, that's just, I'm pretty sure everybody feels that way. So if they're not stuttering, they're not stammering, they are using jargon, that keys us in on, okay, well, this person may know what they're talking about. But how do we actually know? Well, there is a body of knowledge. There is an entire, repository of knowledge that we can have access to. It's online. They have these things now. What are they called? They have, there's just tons of these, libraries. There's tons of libraries out there with a bunch of free books that you can go and look up and stuff. People, I'm not sure what people have against libraries nowadays. I used to actually work in a library. Fun fact: one of my first college jobs, working as a library, an assistant to the librarian assistant. So I was like sub tier. But there's a lot of knowledge in the library. It's nice, peaceful, and if you genuinely want to know about a topic, you can go fucking hit up a library. But okay, so if someone spends all their time in the library reading books and shit, does that make them knowledgeable on a topic? Let's say they love World War II. Well, sure, it can. That is one of the ways. It's definitely one of the ways. And I actually take a page out of G-Man's book with this one. If someone can just sit there and recite to you, pages upon pages because they memorized it, of some particular World War II book, does that mean that they are knowledgeable on the topic? I don't know. For just as far as a layman's understanding, compared to a layman's understanding, yes. If we're comparing your average person who may know the dates or around the time period, if we're just comparing, people who have watched a few World War II movies, or they have, older relatives who are in it, the guy who actually sits down and reads the books, and they know the facts of, the logistics of what went into having the war, the geopolitical climate of the time. The person who actually sits down and reads will probably know more than the average person by that standard. Sprinklers just kicked on. They don't sprinkle my rocks and dirt. So yeah, I think when you compare the two, I think you can say the person in the library is knowledgeable. Okay. But you're now basing that on this particular dynamic. If the dynamic changes, then you'll have to have a bit of a different standard, because if you have two people who are both World War II buffs, they both love the library, they both have their own books, how would you then determine who's knowledgeable? Well, I would think you would probably say both of them are, in comparison to the layman. They would both be knowledgeable. You could then determine who is more knowledgeable by doing something like a quiz. They could have a contest where they have a third party come in and, just kind of have broad facts, kind of like Jeopardy. That's why games like Jeopardy exist. So it is interesting how we can help determine this, but it's really based on what kind of standard we want to set. I'm not concerned with Josiah thumbs downing the video. I really don't care. He needs something to do with his fucking life. He can do that. I guess his master DD got tired of him, so now he's trying to find something better to do. Oh, it's hissy. Okay, let me go inside. That's the sprinklers on. Go for it, Redline. So, sorry. All right. Let me put this. Put that right there. My wife's bag. Okay, so if you compare those two people, both of them have knowledge in the topic. People, when I say people, the layman compared to the knowledgeable guys would say, yeah. Compared to the layman, both these guys are knowledgeable because they actually took the time to learn about the topic. Now, you have somebody who's a professor of world history compared to the guys who are just self-taught and they've read a lot of books, watched documentaries, actual documentaries. Okay, then you have a new standard. So you can continually say that, there is a certain level of knowledge, but then that knowledge exists on a scale. where all possible knowledge, of course, no one can attain all possible knowledge, but close to all the knowledge that you could have for all facets of whatever the topic is. And for me, if we're talking about a topic, and this is very important, and it doesn't matter who's communicating the point. If we're talking about a topic such as the possibility of let's go back in time, of genetic material existing and propagating the first cell, there is a level of requisite knowledge you need in order just to have the conversation. Dragonite, actually, there were 12 down. I said earlier, Bro Joe, 12 down by my count. Thumbs up or down, not majorly important. Thumbs up and down show at least think people watch. Yeah, I'm not concerned with it. But yeah, there is. If you want to talk about what happens to genetic material, or what could happen to genetic material in any condition, there are certain topics you have to have at least a rudimentary understanding of. One of which being biology, specifically molecular biology. No, you don't have to take a molecular biology class to talk about the topic. First and foremost, let me get that out the way. I've not taken a molecular biology class, and I have sufficient knowledge to talk about it. At least understand that what is needed to have that conversation. So no, that's not a requirement. But you have to at least know what DNA is, just from a regular old biology class, from watching enough YouTube videos, I guess, and sitting down and reading a goddamn book, like the one that's over there that says fucking microbiology, or actually the one next to it over there that just says biology in big ass letters. You could do that, and you'd be pretty straight, because those are some pretty hefty books. They got a lot of information, and then you could reinforce that by talking to people you know. Yes, I am on my potato, but simply talking to people, I wouldn't say is the best way just to learn stuff, because a lot of people are audio learners, and just through conversation alone, just through listening, they can absorb a lot of information. I would say that you would have to sit down and read, and actually, I would also say make an outline of the information that you know. But the true test for me is that if you can take the information and communicate it with someone else who doesn't know anything about the topic and get them to understand it, I think that actually is the mark of knowledge. That is the best determination for whether or not somebody is knowledgeable on the topic. And that's why I myself and Sam and a few others were asking, well, what have you learned from this person? Can you repeat it? Because you can say that you're knowledgeable on a topic. I can say that I'm knowledgeable on, I'll use my previous example. No, that's not Mrs. Drag. Mrs. Drag is at the beach with our son. I can say that I'm knowledgeable on emergency medical techniques, right? Whatever. So if I can explain to someone how they need to perform CPR and in what situation, how they need to do a full body sweep front and back, and then demonstrate that to them so that they can then take that knowledge and take that information, apply it, and then hopefully pass the NREMT, excuse me. They can pass at least basic life support and the preliminary exam before you do the NREMT. If they could take that, then yes, that would show that I'm knowledgeable with the material, but skilled to apply it and actually use it. Drag possible indicators. Knowledgeable people rarely brag. Knowledgeable people have no problem admitting when they don't know something. Truly knowledgeable people just don't use jargon to layman. Yes, thank you, Barney. Thank you. And that actually segues nicely into my next point. people who are knowledgeable don't need to tell you they are. They will exude the confidence and the ability to articulate the points, and they won't have to overtly say that they know a lot about it. You know, it's it is that those things definitely help reinforce my concept of someone who is knowledgeable. But that it's kind of a it's kind of tricky, because with knowledgeable, we've also kind of attached skill in there, and that skill is, I think, very important, even though the definition of knowledgeable really doesn't include that. I think most of us refer to knowledgeable just in common parlance. We kind of infer a level of skill too. It's really hard for me to say that for everyone, but I at least I feel that's the case based on the conversations that I've had for the past 20 something years. Okay, that was weird. Dreadnought, have you clamped an arterial bleed? No, I was supposed to go to what they call a live tissue lab in order to do that, but I never got the chance to, because live tissue labs cost money, and they're not going to spend money on medics that aren't deploying. So, yeah. There we go. Okay, so with that, one of the best indicators for me, and someone mentioned it earlier, was that if you are knowledgeable, you can take correction. You can definitely take correction. And I mean take correction right there on the spot. Not 10 weeks later, not a year later, not, not when your closest confidants, gather around you and go, well, maybe they kind of maybe sort of have a point, just maybe. No, you can go, you know what? Let me reevaluate it. Let me hear this person out instead of just poo-pooing them away. Because of course people forget stuff. People get stuff mixed up all the time. It's really incumbent upon that person to go, if they feel as though they are knowledgeable, a part of being knowledgeable and a part of being educated is knowing that a big part of education is being re-educated in a topic. And I say re-educated because for instance, when you learn physics, for anybody who's had to learn physics, a lot of the concepts within physics are counterintuitive to what a lot of us see and do on a day-to-day basis, because we pick up these ideas about the world based on our physical interactions, and we kind of take them for granted because they don't always translate well into what actually happens on like an atomic level, because you can't see a fucking atom. You can't see an electron. You can't see these things really. So how they actually interact with one another, we have to reconceptualize our perspective of the world. And you can't do that unless you re-educate yourself and go, you know what I see is a fraction of what actually happens in the natural world, and that what I am learning now somewhat contradicts what I've previously believed. But if you're here arguing with people who are more knowledgeable, it kind of makes it hard for you to learn more. And I think that's really telling. Whether a person can take correction, whether a person can be re-educated. Because if you've ever been in the military, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're re-educated all the time. You will spend 6 weeks learning something, and then 2 weeks unlearning the previous 4 weeks. Like it's ridiculous. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous and inefficient. But you will have to do it because standards change. So if you're not able to adjust with that type of environment, then you're going to get kicked. Like, you have to be able to adjust. My cousin was asking me about Battlefield 4. I'm not sure if I'm getting that. I need to weigh out some more of my time a bit better to fit in more studying. So I'm not sure if I'll even be getting that. But yeah. So if I say educated, if I say that someone needs to be educated in a topic, it's that they really don't have the requisite knowledge to speak on this topic. And okay, well then I said, well, Drag, does that mean that you've elected yourself as the arbiter? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Do I think that, I'll just give you an example. Do I think G-Man knows enough about evolution to actually talk about the topic? Not really, no. Well, Drag, why do you say that? You're just being mean because you're atheist and Christian and you hate all Christians and you want them to die. No, sorry. That victim fucking fantasy that you got going on, that's not where shit comes from. But it is some of the stuff that is being espoused, the notions that are being put forth in order to be refuted are false. If you are trying to debunk abiogenesis and you say that it is impossible for genetic material to go into a solution and a non-controlled environment and survive, that's a demonstrably false statement. You can put DNA, you can put your own genetic material, you can extract it. You can do this with strawberries, as a matter of fact. I'm not even joking. You can take dish detergent and some strawberries that you get from Walmart, and you can extract the DNA out of it using dish detergent. It's a demonstrably false statement to say that when you put DNA into solution, it falls apart. It's just false. So if someone's trying to debunk this scenario, and their premise from the very beginning can be disproven by a trip to Walmart, how do we have the conversation? It's not that I'm not making shit up. Hell, those books you see over there describe how to do this. So where do we go with the conversation when we can't even acknowledge the science that already exists that clearly show what the facts are surrounding the issue? Steve has uploaded a 9-minute simple response. So check out Steve's video. I will after I end this, but I guess that's the tough part for me, because if I'm trying to debunk a Bible verse and I say, well, in Genesis 85:16 it says that God, shit Adam out, and that's just silly. Why would anyone ever believe anything like that? Well, we'll drag that Bible verse doesn't exist. Yes, it does. Well, show me. Well, you show me it doesn't exist. How can we have a conversation if I have the wrong interpretation of events, if I have misinformation? How can we even go forward with a conversation? I want that explained to me. You can even use my example, I don't care. Somebody explain that shit to me. Because it makes no sense, and the conversation cannot happen. And it's simply because of people's inability to take correction for whatever reason. For insecurity, for ego, whatever. I don't like I can sit here and speculate all day, but at the end of the day I really don't care. I really, really don't care. But if the argument if the issue is hold on. Okay. All right. Let me get this set back up. So, if we're talking about a topic and we're saying this particular chemical process would lead to this conclusion, what are we talking about? Where's the conversation going? We're deferring to a body of knowledge that already exists, a body of knowledge that has been demonstrated and can be demonstrated in any lab, sufficient lab in any part of the U.S., any part of the world. It's not anything miraculous. It's so unmiraculous that I've been able to mess with the shit in a shitty college campus, community college campus up in nowhere's fuckingville, Cecil Tucky, Maryland. That's how unremarkable this shit is. So, in order for me to have gotten to have access to that, I would have had to pass through certain barriers and display certain knowledge to get to play with the stuff. When I'm told by someone who has not actually physically messed with the stuff what can't happen, I go, okay, so here's two scenarios. Two possible scenarios. I'm completely fucking lying, and that I'm fabricating literally photos of me in a lab messing with the shit. I am fabricating my degree over there. I am fabricating the people who are around me also in lab coats and shit messing with the DNA. And we're all just making this shit up to some grand troll experiment on the fucking internet. Like, that's a possibility. Or that the individual who is saying that this can't happen, who has never been in a lab and actually put hands on this stuff, doesn't actually understand the topic and understand the science behind it. Which one of these scenarios is more likely? Somebody tell me. Because I am under the impression that the positions, one of these two positions with the least amount of assumptions is more than likely. I'm just going to throw that out there. I could have sworn there was some type of philosophical, dictum that somebody came up with that said, you know what, we should possibly look at different possibilities, remove any redundancies, and go with the ones that had the least assumptions, something to that effect. I'm going to go with the assertion coming from the person who has never actually dealt with the shit, who probably doesn't actually understand the topic as well as they should, has been mistaken. That seems more plausible. Drag, can you provide evidence of your assumption, Drag? Yeah. I'm at a loss, because you can't have a conversation if you can't even have a baseline on what the facts are surrounding the fucking field. Like, sure, you know what? Let me play devil's advocate. Let me play devil's advocate. I will play my interlocutor. Well, I was reading in this particular book on the ancient Earth that 90% of the world's 90% of the Earth's water was basic. If you're telling me that this acidic molecule existed there, that seems highly unlikely because of acid-base reactions, yada yada yada. It would have fucking imploded. Okay, cool. Then we would just have to see
if that's actually accurate. If all the water was basic, I could definitely see that would actually make sense, because it follows that when you have an acid and a base, you put them fucking together, you have an acid base reaction. You get a fucking salt and water. So that's where conversation can go, where everybody can discuss the topics because we're all deferring to the same body of knowledge. Both people are knowledgeable because we're both deferring to the same body of knowledge. It's not, well, one person deferring to the vast, and I mean the vast body of knowledge that allows us to live in a first world country, and the other person is just making shit up. Hold on. Hey, y'all have fun?
I got food.
You have food? Okay.
Oh,
So, anyway, yeah, that's Mrs. Dragnon. That's why I know she's not fucking typing. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. I'll probably talk more about this a bit later and try and elaborate a bit more. But that's at the core of a lot of these issues. And even people who watch the debate between me and G-Man, we couldn't even, like, there's such a chasm in between the stuff that we're discussing that it's hard to have the conversation when everyone's not on the same page. And we're talking about how conversation needs to happen. We need to get away from drama and all this kind of stuff. Then it's incumbent upon both parties to say, here are the facts, let's discuss them. You know, satirical websites tend not to have factual information. YouTube videos kind of tend not to have factual information. If I want to find out, what was I working on? An experiment that I just did this fucking week, Monday, right? If I want to find out how many grams of anhydrous iron nitrate was used to make the solution, well, if me and my lab partner aren't referring to, or differing rather, to the same sources, how can we both come to the same answer? And when I say the same sources, if he goes to a crystal ball to find the answer, and I'm going to, I think it's called WikiChem or something like that. It's some kind of wiki for chemicals. If I'm going to that and he's going to a crystal ball, how do we hope to be on the same page and discuss whether or not his numbers and his methods of finding that are accurate? Or we both defer to the body of knowledge that is that wiki, then perform whatever methodology we need to come to that conclusion. If our conclusions are a bit different, if one's off, then we can actually discuss that. But you kind of can't do that unless you're both on the same page. So if we're going to talk about a topic, I think we all do need to have a lot of the same sources or the same repository where the sources can be found. Not necessarily the same sources, but the same area. If you find a journal, article, whatever, Nature, PubMed, NIH, whatever, and I'm going to those same sites and I'm finding something for me, then we can discuss the merits of both of them, because they're coming from really the same body of knowledge. So I think it is really important that we point that out and how different that is, because it's almost impossible to have a conversation when this does not happen. So my family just got back from the beach. I'm gonna sit down, eat something, and then might be back later. See ya.